day to dark does turn. One simple truth she dare not speak. Her life.
Welcome back to G2 Esports versus Damwon't Gaming, where the LEC champions took game one. And as exciting as it was, as crazy as those team fights were, it was still, I would say, a very close game of League of Legends.
It was intense later on. Well, I think throughout the game, we were talking about how it felt like that someone was always doing something. There was very rarely a lull state between the two teams because the G2 was being proactive, but when they weren't, Damwon't were using that opportunity to set up vision, regain some map control, push out their waves, and constantly it was this ebb and flow back and forth between the two teams, setting up for a game that could have gone either way.
And that's what you get when you put two of the very best teams in the world playing at their best up against each other. And that is why it was such a fun game for me to watch, because every play had a counterplay, every question had an appropriate answer. It felt like these two teams were really kind of checking each other back and forth, and I was so impressed with the level of League of Legends that we got in that first game, and I just honestly can't wait to get into the next one.
And honestly, the biggest mistake that came out from that game was the Nuguri overextending bot lane where he got killed by two members. And because the bot lane inhib opened and so much more pressure started being applying, that is what then gave G2 the opportunity to even set up for the Baron in the first place. And if you think about how small of a mistake that was and how big it was, it just goes to show how quickly both these teams can convert a small advantage into a big one. And while we saw it from G2 this time around, we could see the same thing from Damwon't.
And how close both these teams are, because the pick potential on G2's comp was almost never used. They almost never found a single member alone or isolated outside of that one moment with Nuguri. Damwon't matching them, giving them the respect they deserve, but we're going to have to see what changes. As once again, G2 are on blue side, but the Syndra will now be taken away.
Now, Syndra is something that Damwon't actually often ban. They really don't like playing against it, but because they were forced to ban away both the Elise and the Renekton last game, they had to leave it open. But now they've shifted. They've adapted their bans, and this time G2 are going to get themselves the Renekton.
And it also signifies that I think they want to go for more of a counter matchup in that mid lane. Syndra, very safe, blind, pickable mid laner, has strong early game, good skirmish 2v2 in the mid game, and ShowMaker is someone who loves to dominate against these melee matchups, so perhaps trying to force Caps into something that he feels he can counterpick.
I would be very surprised if Damwon't don't go for the Elise right now, because you're just asking G2 to take it.
Oh, they're going to leave it up.
2v2 on the top side of the map surely is an inevitability from the side of G2, and the Jayce is still open if they want it, so they could even grab it and have the double flex between the two solo lanes.
Exactly, it's a flex here. This is really risky to be going up against, and Damwon's going to have to be on point, answering the pressure coming out of Renekton as well as the Elise. The Quinn is banned out, so there is not that sort of an answer. We could see
the return of the Ornn horn.
If you want to go defensive, if you want to try to play it on the back foot, you can go that route. There is also the more risky scaling options that we have seen come out from Nuguri. He loves Vladimir. I do think it is so scary playing it early game into Renekton, but if you can survive, that is something that you can really start to take over later on.
And also importantly, G2, one of the few teams in the tournament that we can see reliably flex mages into the bottom side. So with the Jayce now being locked in, you have to feel like Damwon't need to be prepared for a mage, an AP damage threat on the bottom side of the map if G2 Esports want to look for it. And as they lock in this last pick, that's what they're going to be thinking about in the second ban phase.
And we did get to see G2 bring out a mage once in group stage. It was Zoe coming out. Didn't work out for them in that game, but I do tend to feel it was more down to the execution of the pick than the fault of the pick itself.
I wonder now what direction Damwon't are going to go. They're actually picking up the Rise. This is quite interesting because I believe that you could put the Rise into either matchup. I think it's relatively safe. I know that both Nuguri and ShowMaker, more than happy to play this, can be a very effective carry in a side lane. Right now, we're seeing pretty good scaling avenues coming out from the side of Damwon't, but the early game's still heavily in the favor of G2 Esports.
I think that it could go into either matchup, but I do think the Rise is going to want to play mid lane here. I think it's so dangerous to go top lane early game as a Rise against the potential Renekton Elise. the threat of the dive there, the threat of getting picked off when a wave is pushing out away from you is so high that you would have to just be almost too careful to really make it worthwhile.
So I'm just going to float the idea by you both. This could be a Jayce bot lane. Just a maybe. I'm not saying it for sure, but we know that Jayce
I would like partial credit if it does happen, says Andrew Day.
But it's just very much, it's something that Damwon't have to also recognize, and I really feel that they should save their final solo pick till the end. They should lock in a support right now, something, well, with the Norlis being banned away, maybe they just go for comfort in BeryL's Alistar, for example. An easy engage tool, something he's very comfortable on, and it allows you to play through bot lane.
I think this is one of the scariest parts about going up against G2 is you always have in the back of your head, where is this going? What if it's going bot lane? What if it is a triple flex? And you kind of sometimes eliminate the red side advantage because of that, because red side has these required bans, but your advantage is supposed to be able to counterpick.
I think that's Orianna mid.
And you can see the adjustment
from Damwon't. It could be bot or mid, right?
I mean, that's true.
Really hard to know.
And this is why they're holding on to support as the final pick. They need to see what's coming in through on the bottom side of the map. And now Mikyx could just lock in the Alistar, good to deny it away from BeryL, and additionally, whether it's a Jayce or an Orianna, a lot of synergy with the composition that has already been put together.
So I think Damwon't, I hate to see it, but like a Braum could work here. It would be very defensive, but I think it is a pretty good matchup into the Alistar. They could also go for another hard engage option in the form of Leona, but I actually think Leona's not a great matchup into the Alistar, especially in lane, because every time she tries to go in, she literally just gets punted back out again, and it's a very difficult matchup to play.
While I do agree in the lane, it can be very difficult. I also think that you have pretty good threat onto champions like the Jayce, like the Orianna, with that backline access when you're coming to mid and late game team fights. If you can land that solar flare onto one of these champions, apply the plasma, you have then the follow-up perhaps of a Kennen flanking through, of a Lee Sin kick, of the Kai'Sa ulting in over the top. So that is the kind of style we're looking for. And Damwon't, I do think, are going to leave the Ryze mid lane as expected. It's just too dangerous playing against potential Renekton Elise in a long lane. Kennen can handle either sides of these matchups.
All right, and it will be committed. Renekton into the mid lane, Jayce to the top lane, Orianna on the bottom lane for Perkz.
Orianna bot lane. Here we go.
Something we really need to track, I think, is actually the early game for Perkz and Mikyx, because when you are playing these mages bot, you need to be able to get to that Lost Chapter recall. You need to be able to get to some form of mana regen to be able to continue the push and actually start to succeed in these lanes. Otherwise, it can get very, very difficult.
I'm expecting Cannon once again to be looking to play through bot lane. When he has these kind of a bot, he has a tendency to look to play through this lane, and I wouldn't be surprised to see ShowMaker look for another roam. We saw the play last game. I think it's how Damwon't like to play the early laning phase, and the problem is with this playstyle, if you do not get ahead early, we see what happens to this team in the mid game. It's going to be difficult to find plays, especially against a Jayce, Elise, Renekton. So I feel that for G2, their solo lanes are going to be their big advantage in the early game.
And here we go, game 2. Game 1 going in the favor of G2 Esports. This game, they're flexing picks all over the place. A strength known on this team. And on the opposite side, Damwon't once again forced to respond, forced to do what they can to weather the storm of G2. But they've got something else special for themselves. They've got the Kennen, they've got the Ryze in the mid lane, and now it's all eyes on the jungle matchup. See exactly how this early game will play out, because we know the Elise has dive pressure in a lot of different places. Time to see what Jankos can get done.
So I'm looking at the level 1s once again. It seems that G2 is going to make exactly the same play where they move up towards the red buff. They're going to drop the ward in, get some information on as to what Cannon is up to in the early game, and notice the positioning of Perkz and Mikyx as well. Defensive in the river, but quite aggressive in their defense of their own half of the jungle, because they do not want to allow Damwon't to be able to get the same vision on the opposite side.
Yeah, you want that pathing advantage for Jankos here, and Jankos will recall for his sweeper, same exact play as last time. Do note it is cleanse for ShowMaker, so he's in the shorter lane on the Ryze and has the cleanse to help to deal with this Elise and Renekton combo. It still can be very, very difficult, because yes, you can cleanse the Renekton stun, but then there is the possibility of Jankos still landing something like a cocoon. So at times, you often need to actually commit both summoners to escape these ganks.
And that's going to be a very difficult position for ShowMaker to find himself in. Has often been the rock for this team, but I also want to focus a little bit on the bottom side. It's been a year since Perkz has played Orianna. No stranger to the pick. His second most played champion of all time. 29 games played. And I actually want to see what this champion could do in the bottom lane, because we all know the ult plus Alistar combo, it sounds great. In theory, it should be good, but what does it actually look like in the lane phase?
Well, something that you guys were talking about with regards to summoner spells is that Perkz is actually running the teleport. Same for Nuclear. And I think what's important about this is when you're running against a Leona, an immobile mage in the form of Ori, the plays that you can set up if her flash is down is very dangerous. And that's why I think the Alistar play, the Alistar pick, is also very important, because if he ever leaves this Orianna alone, she is very susceptible to getting dived, getting jumped on top of, and it's something that I think G2 will have to be very cautious of, especially in the early game, where Canyon usually likes to play around bot side.
It's going to be really fun to track how they perform with these phase rush rune choices here. You can see Wunder took it, Perkz took it. Not only does it allow you to kite back and forth to chase people down in team fights, but it's also very helpful at actually dodging out on some of the skill shots. And there's some pretty important ones for Damwon't to hit. The Zenith Blade, the Rise Qs, the Lee Sin Q. You know, all these little things that you can actually be sidestepping in a fight can be extremely important. But here's Jankos wrapping around on Nuguri. He could be in trouble.
Level 3 Elise, Nuguri level 3 of his own. Trying to proc the stun, and still will connect. Nuguri now going to be in trouble. They're going to try to run him down into the tower, and that's going to be it. First blood for G2.
And it's just clean and simple from G2. Very predictable path from Jankos from red buff into full topside clear. Nuguri, he wasn't even overextended. It's just the amount of early game damage that this Elise Jayce combo does have. But now Canyon, he wants to try and answer back.
Caps will get locked up, but he's under the tower. The Sonic Wave will not connect. That's disaster for the side of Damwon't Gaming. And Jankos is on the way in. Canyon still under the tower, waiting for that cooldown to come back up. Using the Rise as a highway for escape. Jankos will not find the cocoon.
Some critical misexecution, honestly, from Damwon't here. Canyon not able to land the Q on that Renekton, who is rooted up. I think it was a range issue, but also, yes, it was a good gank from G2 up on the top side, but Nuguri should be able to flash that cocoon 10 times out of 10. It was in vision.
Yeah.
That should be his flash force and nothing else. You flash that cocoon, you should be full health, and then just chilling, waiting for your jungler to help you push out the wave and reset it. Instead, when you flash after the cocoon, not only do you die, your summoner is wasted, and the repeat gank is so damn easy.
Caps, though, gonna find the stun on the Lee Sin. He is not back yet. He does not have the challenging smite. Canyon now going to be in trouble. Caps is gonna commit the flash toward it, and he's gonna get it! It's a clean kill from Caps in the jungle.
And now the action doesn't slow down as we see trading in the bot lane.
Re-engage coming in. Aftershock will fade away shortly. They're trying to push Nuclear out of this fight. They want to buy a bit more time. Mikyx! It's going to be it. Perkz now has to be careful. TP coming into the bottom side, trying to buy as much time with the command protect as he can. Nuclear's going to be in trouble. Jankos is on the way down. They might give both their lives for this exchange. Nuclear set in the sights of Jankos. He will grab one. BeryL next on the menu. G2 still trying to come out on top, but it's Caps over the wall. He might just find it.
Yeah, Caps could maybe get him here. He doesn't have the flash. He's going to look to use the slice on the Gromp, so he has the dice available.
Dice in. Oh, that's going to be it. Ruthless Predator. BeryL just has to pick who he wants to give the kill to, and it looks like Cap's not going to grab it because Wunder is there to grab it in the end.
Still, overall, huge plays from the Damwon't bot lane. They get a double kill on their Kai'Sa in a 2v2 after disaster struck elsewhere on the map. The failed play on mid lane, your jungler dies, your top laner dies. So not only does this give them a lead in the bot side, it gave relief for Nuguri and forced out the teleport from Perkz to answer that top lane wave. So it is actually going to initiate a lane swap here from G2.
The full swap now coming through as Caps looking a lot more confident in the mid lane. Jankos steadily starting to pull ahead in terms of XP over Canyon, and this is an ideal start to the game for G2. Damwon't Gaming not able to find the early success that they wanted. Small mistakes costing them dearly in terms of execution.
So a lot of stuff has happened in the first 5 minutes. So I want to just quickly take stock of what we don't have time. The diving mid lane. The diving mid lane. Here comes the Alistar. Here comes the Ahri, and Jankos is in position.
Canyon there to try to mitigate this. It might just be Caps playing for plates instead. 4 members. They're not even going to commit for the plate. Jankos now has to back off. Perkz still walking in. Hex Flash comes over the wall. Jankos going to try to find this one. Canyon. Luckily, BeryL was there just in time to give him an avenue out, or it could have been disastrous. Damwon't Gaming with a good response to the play overall.
So, what happened in the initial bot lane play was that Perkz and Mikyx at early levels, they overstepped. The early game damage of this Leona and Kai'Sa duo cannot afford to be underestimated, especially when you pair it up against an Orianna who, without items, just doesn't really do anything in the early laning phase. So, G2's bot lane did get punished. But in order to turn that around, they had to invest multiple teleports, and they also sacked a lot of pressure in their own lanes. Look at the mid lane CS difference and the actual mid lane XP difference. ShowMaker has 2 to 3 whole waves above his lane counterpart, equalizing the gold. And while Caps has now hit level 6 and a gank happens.
Dash out. Where's the dominance going to come through? Canyon being chipped away at. Caps doesn't want to commit the ulti quite yet. Jankos on the way in. He's trying to bait. The patience on not using the dominance there. Good from Caps.
Definitely testing his limits there. Well, clearly he already knew his limits, let alone test them.
Limits tested.
Yeah.
Already tested in advance.
But you can see the swap back, and while it was pretty good, the way in which G2 reacted to the whole map and how they used the TP top to keep Perkz still relevant in terms of farm, notice that Nuclear still has his TP up. Nuguri's TP is going to be coming up before that of Wunder, which means that Damwon't, once they hit that inevitable level 6 mark, could look to set up another play in bot lane. And the important thing to note about that is that Perkz has no flash, which means Damwon't can continue to funnel resources into Nuclear and rely on him to be the primary win condition of this team, because the scaling on Damwon's side is still very good.
I also think that Wunder is going to have to be very, very careful with this bounty on his head as Lee Sin hits level 6. When you have that Kennen and Lee Sin combo with both ultimates available, if you are heavily pushing as a Jayce, that is something where you can get locked down by the Kennen stuns, and if that happens, it's a free Q, easy kick. But it is this G2 bottom lane that they are looking to try to play around here. Jankos has the XP advantage, is at a strong point in the game, and going to be looking to see if he can make them pay.
And the headbutt pulverize combo should result in a guaranteed shockwave if G2 execute correctly. But Caps now walking a little too deep into enemy territory, waiting for Jankos to come over the wall. Cocoon will not connect. Canyon trying to play safe here. Is just going to look to dash back out. Good positioning coming in from ShowMaker. How much more do G2 want to commit for this? Dominus has been burned. Mickey now roaming down. Nuclear ready to ult in if necessary.
That was so critical because if you kill Canyon there, that's your Infernal. And G2 may elect to start it up anyway because Canyon is chunked quite low, but it would be a much riskier play. And that was just like a sixth sense from Canyon. He did not have vision on Caps, but he kind of sussed it out. He felt like someone might be in there, so he steps back, dodging the out-of-sight Cocoon.
I mean, one would say dodging, other could say Jankos missed, depending on what side of the coin you're on.
Tomato.
But you're definitely right. I think Canyon's awareness of not facing that brush was very important, and it allowed him to ultimately get away with his life. G2 are going to use this opportunity to get full vision control around the bot side, and great respect being shown by Nuclear and BeryL right now as the collapse is coming
Jankos, Rise coming in, bringing the Lee Sin along with him. Jankos needs to make his way out of safety, has to flash. Mickey there to body block any follow-up damage, but Nuclear goes in. The knockup is there over the wall, but Jankos goes up, he comes down, and he gets knocked out.
The counterpunch here is so big for Damwon't because we talked about G2 could have taken that Infernal. Now it is Damwon't that have the priority. Nuguri has his teleport. That is a big advantage for them as well. So I don't think that G2 can really afford to contest this. Nuguri can just start walking back towards top lane. If G2 ever commit, you TP in and you have that 5v3 right now.
And it's all thanks to that ward just above the Drake that spotted Jankos out moving into the enemy jungle, which allowed Damwon't to set up for the collapse. They found a very important pick, and they will actually find themselves now with a very small gold lead. Damwon't playing this early game beautifully. Oh, okay, I stand corrected. He's actually going to get spotted out on that ward just above, and he thinks that he's the one setting up the trap to dive onto the bot lane, but it is in fact Damwon't that are coming to collapse on the Spider.
And it's impressive how quickly they collapse because it's not just the bot lane coming up, Canyon immediately running over to ShowMaker, utilizing that Rise ultimate to come piling in, and that is really what allowed them to make that play because G2 actually had Caps down on that bottom side. They had 4 members there, but when all of these Damwon't members show up and burst out Jankos, there's no fight that can be continued after.
Just good from Damwon't to not see them lose their cool after a few of those plays went wrong for them early on. Only about a 300 gold difference as G2 trying to get something back, looking to grab the Herald, but it has now been spotted out by the control ward. Cap stepping down. A lot of skirmish power on the side of G2. Damwon't Gaming, though, aren't concerned. They're willing to burn the TP. The Kennen ult has to be respected, and G2 backing off, but need to be careful. If they step into the funnel with the Kennen there, everything could turn around. They're debating, and it looks like they are just going to back off. Damwon't Gaming know that they have the team fight advantage, and they're just going to grab that objective.
And Perkz just didn't have his teleport. It's coming up right about now, so it would have been a low percentage play for G2.
Damwon't also have priority on mid, which means they can immediately drop it and look to get a bunch of these teleports. This is now going to force the TP out from Orianna to help provide wave clear and hold the lane.
G2 maybe hoping to fish for a play. We'll find the knockup. That's going to be massive. ShowMaker now in trouble. Caps trying to dive into the midst of the team, but he's knocked out. BeryL trying to disengage. G2 still losing 2 plays, but will not get anything else in the exchange. Damwon't holding on for now. Big engage coming forward for Caps. Jayce Shock Blast will not be enough. The flash away from the command attack.
So G2 mounts a successful defense, 3 versus 4, with a clutch shockwave and a flash in from Mickey. They almost found a bunch of kills, but G2 don't quite have the itemization yet. They don't have the damage, which means Damwon't, after burning a couple of flashes, are able to get away to safety.
G2 committing a lot of resources to that play in the end. Perkz once again TP-less. Luckily for him, Caps and Wunder do have theirs. And Mikyx and Caps threatening into this mid lane will grab at least one plate. Sticking around for two might be a bit greedy though, is Canyon. And ShowMaker now coming in, but meanwhile on the top side of the map, Wunder starting to feel very confident, trying desperately to force out the Kennen ultimate in a trade just so that he knows the team can take a fight with confidence.
And I think that's such a smart call because it is about trying to take these aggressive trades. And if you can make him ult, great. If you both now TP into the fight, the Jayce is going to be worth that much more. Nuguri is holding onto the flash, holding onto the TP, and he's going to have his proto belt done here next time he bases and will be set up incredibly well for that next team fight, potentially, around this Cloud Dragon that is going to be coming up in 2 minutes.
So one of the advantages that Damwon't find themselves with is that the Rise is now actually built up not only a massive experience advantage, being a whole level over Caps, but is also starting to build a bit of a gold advantage. When we talked about Damwon't scaling, not only do they have a really good teamfight comp, but their ability to play through the side lanes is also very strong, largely because of ShowMaker. And he has been one of the best performing players on this team, not only in the group stages, but pretty much throughout the year for Damwon't. And I feel that if anyone is going to be the big swing factor in enabling Damwon't to equalize the series, it's going to be him in this game on Rise.
And it's so important to bring up too, because once again, I feel like we're in a position where the pressure is on G2 to execute, to find a way to snowball a larger lead, because on the opposite side, you have Kennen AP team fighting. It is so much easier for you to win in the late game. It's comparing that to the Orianna Shockwave. G2 have to find that multi-man ult, and it's a much smaller circle.
And it's the classic Nuguri style. He's being very, very greedy. He went Klepto. He bought a Cull after dying for first blood. This is the kind of situation that allows him to catch up in gold, right? He is actually only about 150 gold behind now, despite the fact that Wunder has 2 kills, including a first blood, and Nuguri has nothing.
And you can also see, he's itemizing for the team fight. He's got the sword shoes. He's got, you know...
You're ready to
protocol.
go at this point.
Yeah, and on the opposite side, Wunder's like, I guess I'll build a defensive item to help me win this 1v1. And while it might help in the fights to come as well, I have to say, hold that, as Perkz will not get engaged on.
And I think the Hex Drinker is also looking forward later into the game when you realize, hey, it might be ShowMaker all of a sudden coming into that side lane against you, and you're going to have to be able to deal with that Rise. If you do go for this pure lethality earlier style of build, you can get run over by a Rise who we know is going to be monstrous in that side lane later on.
Now look at what G2 is up to. They've decided to sack the bot side of the map to make a play top, and they're going for a dive.
Ulti coming out from the Kennen very early. The CC has been chained. Wunder waiting to swap forms until the ulti expires. That will be a clean dive coming out for G2. But meanwhile, Nuclear and BeryL setting their sights on the bottom side. It might just be the trade 1-for-1 in terms of towers.
A lot of respect to Perkz in this situation because he was left in isolation and he recognized where the pressure and power was. He knew that Damwon't would look to try and commit to this bot tower, so he moves up towards mid to act as the wave clear and threaten this tower while G2 make the play top. While they do trade in objectives, G2 come out ahead by grabbing themselves a kill.
And additionally now, you have a Kennen without an ultimate. TP's up, but he can't really TP to help a fight too much. Maybe can look to save one of the towers as G2 are putting down a lot of pressure, but Mikyx trading his ult for the Kennen ult is very much in favor of G2 if they force a fight in the duration of that cooldown.
I actually really like that Caps then, instead of just resetting off of that top lane kill, went mid to put pressure on that tower. Because what that meant is Canyon was unable to stay on the dragon and take a dragon, which would then essentially be turret for turret and a dragon for a kill, which would have been a Damwon't positive play.
Mikyx though, kick backed. Can try to headbutt his way out to safety, just walking face first into Canyon. Caps is, of course, waiting there in the darkness, could go back in, but happy to continue farming the Krugs. Does give Damwon't priority over Dragon in the pit, though, looking to secure that Cloud.
As a great man once said, you can't milk those. So Mikyx ends up walking out to safety. Damwon't will end up securing a easy Cloud Drake. And we'll see now Caps be siphoned off into the side lane. He's been falling behind a lot in farm. He hasn't completed his first major item yet outside of Boots, which means that he now needs to be funneled a couple more resources. With the teleport available and with the primary wave clear sitting on top of Perkz, Perkz is likely going to be the man that you keep in the mid lane with Wunder and Caps off on the side.
Age on the Perkz, have to be careful though. He can turn this one with a shockwave, but Mikyx getting slowly but surely getting chunked down. The Alistar ult not available. Jankos now in trouble. They're so incredibly squishy, but it's Caps into the back line in the midst of the entire team. Nuguri's ult is right back up, and that's going to be the fight that Damwon't need. Wunder has to run for the hills, trying to flash out, desperate to try to get to safety. Caps wants to turn this one around. Has the dominance, but is getting chipped away at, and that should be it. Caps getting burned through. ShowMaker now on a killing spree as Wunder is in enemy territory. He needs to make his way out, but he spots BeryL in the jungle.
And what a fantastic collapse from Damwon't, recognizing that they can attack G2 in the setup with their 5-man unit. It doesn't even cost Nuguri his teleport, but they show the power of their 5v5. They catch G2 out of position, and now they're going to extend their gold lead even more.
Absolutely love how they're coordinating on these engages. It is BeryL going in, no hesitation. As soon as you see that they're going to make this engage, Ryze is already running up. Ryze is already looking for the Realm Warp. They are ready for this play to happen. And right as the engage goes in, ShowMaker has now flanked them. So G2 has no where to go here. They have to flash over the wall, right into the waiting arms of Nuguri, and Damwon't has just set up this fight and executed it so incredibly well.
The map state was so good for Damwon't. They had top pushed in, they had bot pushed in, and they were moving before G2 had even reached the waves, which means that not only did G2 lose farm in both top and bot, they also lost a fight to boot, meaning that Damwon't now sit with a 3,000 gold advantage.
Crazy how quickly a game like this can turn on its head. Kennen now with the Oblivion Aura as well, going to be feeling very comfortable in the fights to come. Clean flash out of that fight from Nuclear, denying the Shockwave as an answer. And have to hope for G2's sake that they can clean it up in the fights. Getting split up like that makes the Kai'Sa so powerful and definitely starts to outvalue the Orianna if she can find these isolated members.
I mean, we talked about it earlier, but the biggest discrepancy right now is between the mid laners. This Ryze is so much more valuable than the Renekton is, and his power really comes from the early game, but he still hasn't completed any core of his itemization, which means that Damwon't is not only so much stronger at this point in the game, but will only continue to scale up.
And this can sometimes happen when you are playing Renekton. You want to go towards Shojin, but it can be hard if the game is really hectic and you're not picking up kills to get enough farm to get a good buy on that BF. So the BF buy came in so late, but you're going back for bases and you're like, well, I'm playing this early game champion. I need to get something under my belt. I need some sort of power. And that's why he ended up with these extra pieces, just because he felt like he needed to spend gold and be as strong as he possibly could. But he has got that Shojin now and will have the opportunity with that level 2 Dominus to try to make something happen.
So difficult, though. You look at ShowMaker and Nuguri, respectively, and they're very, very far ahead of the competition. Additionally, the Morellos coming in will make that 1v1 that much more difficult. You can see how quickly the story of this game changed. Dead even up until that exchange in the mid lane. Now things are going to get a lot easier for the side of Damwon't. He has to back off, and the game state does not get easier from G2 from this point on.
And for Damwon't, there's really no pressure on them to do anything. They can just sit back, continue to scale. The items are coming through very nicely for them. A lot of their members have hit 2 items already, and so all they have to do is stop G2 trying to force anything and go for any dangerous fights that could allow G2 back into the game, because they know they will outscale. They'll know that they will keep winning these 5v5. So as long as they don't do anything too egregious, they will slowly get to a point where they become impossible for G2 to stop.
And of course, always the hope for the 3-item Orianna plus Alistar combo. The dream will be G2's get out of jail free card if they make it late enough into the game. But then again, it all comes down to execution, and it has been a story of inconsistency for G2 thus far in the tournament.
We do know that one pick can change the game. Just like last time, it felt like Damwon't had stabilized. It felt like, you know, they were going to perhaps take over with their scaling. Yes, Damwon't is in a much better spot this time around, but that one Kayle pick led to a Baron, led to a monumental advantage for G2, and they do have the playmaking to try to get these things done. But Damwon't certainly sitting in a controlling spot right now. They have the Dragons in their advantage. They have just set up these team fights so incredibly well, and they're looking pretty bulletproof in this last 10-15 minutes.
I think that Damwon's next bet will be to set up vision control around the Baron. While they could look to make a play for the Cloud Drake, I don't think it's as impactful as being able to maintain and just push G2 away from a possible early Baron take. Because that's one of those situations which, yes, it could be good for Damwon't, but why force it now? You know that if you just wait a little bit longer, wait for the Mana Mune to be fully stacked up and ready to go for Nuclear, just don't take any gambles. Be patient. Take your time.
And I think we can take some time to talk a little bit about these teams and the journeys that they have kind of had here. Damwon't coming all the way from Challenger to Worlds, this incredible run, but also the ramp up within the tournament. When people saw them in play and people were not as impressed, were thinking that they weren't executing properly in some of these games. They even dropped a game there. But throughout the group stage, this team has gotten better and better and better, and it really does feel like they are now transitioning what we have seen from them and heard about in scrims to the stage.
And while game 1 was rough, if they win game 2, we can call it a blip on the radar. They have been so incredibly good. You see the goal difference, you see the record, the KD impressive as well. 12-2 so far in the tournament. Despite some questionable performances and play-ins, they have been getting better and better as we've moved on.
And I do think that is pre this series, right? So they do have one additional loss, so it should be 12-3 now. But Damwon't certainly putting up a very tough fight here for G2, who is that last hope of Europe, who is the MSI champions. And we're coming into Worlds really as one of the big 3 that people like to talk about. It was G2, it was FPX, it was SKT, and these were the teams that were meant to reign supreme. But G2 did not have the kind of run that they were hoping in the group stage. They did struggle. They did not get that first seed. And now, as a result, you're going to be going up against an even tougher team than you would have been had you captured that first seed.
Absolutely is the case. And now we're in that lull state. We're in that brief period of time. G2 catching as much farm as they can. Orianna looking to get a few more items under her belt. Renekton getting closer and closer to a bit more CDR. The Black Cleaver to shred through some of what the enemy team is bringing. But Rise, I mean, we saw it from DWG yesterday. If this champion in the hands of a skilled player gets too far ahead, it feels impossible to win 1v1s, to win team fights. So now pressure is on G2 to execute, to find some kind of greater advantage. For now, they're trying to lay down a bit of vision around the Baron. Make sure that this, at least, will not go over to the side of Damwon't.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like what G2's next window even is, because we've talked so much about how Damwon't, they don't need to force anything. They don't need to overextend. They just need to keep some vision around the Baron area, just keep catching these waves, and you know that once you get 3 items, you're going to be strong enough to be able to win these 5v5s. So for G2, I feel like one of their best bets is to try and look for a pick on a side lane, maybe try and catch someone out of position, but even doing that is very difficult because, as you can see, Damwon't group up as 3 at a minimum when forcing these plays, and here comes the Realm Warp.
Perkz now trying to run for the hills, has to go as fast as his little Orianna feet can carry him.
Will cost him his flash, but he will be able to get to safety. Damwon't now forcing him back, will be able to move up through the river though and clear out all of that vision coming out from the side of G2.
I'm sorry, I don't know why that got me. Just those little Orianna feet, just let him go.
I almost called him Kyson. I had to swap at the last second, and it's funny to watch someone flash away at full health from a Kai'Sa Void Seeker.
But it's the right choice.
It is the right choice, yeah.
You're
You're instantly dead, but it's just not on its own a very threatening ability.
And I agree with you, Vedius, completely. It's going to be about the picks for G2. It has to be, because they don't have really a threatening Baron comp. It's not as though they can just burn that down because you're missing something like a Cassio or a Kai'Sa who can do it.
I think they're going to get engaged on right now. You can see Nuguri looking for the flank, but good wards on either side of mid lane from G2 to deter Damwon't from committing to that. But now they have control over their sideways. Both bot and top are being pushed in. And again, it just looks like Damwon't going to continue buying their time.
Very aware of the flank, and it's interesting to see what Damwon't can do from here. Now, something we talked about earlier, Vedius, was they were very good when they played against IG about punishing mistakes from the opposite team. And they're in a position where, as you said, there's no pressure on Damwon't to do anything. They should be set up to punish mistakes. The question is, will G2 fall into some of the same traps that we saw IG in the group stage?
Well, for now, what I think is we see ShowMaker moving into the bot lane. I actually quite like this adaptation from Damwon't. Send 2 people bot because you know you can't afford to overextend top to try and guarantee pressure. And with Matin spawning in about a minute's time, it guarantees you numbers advantage to be able to force vision in the bot side of the map to set up for this objective.
And these are why they're making these plays, because they also know what G2 win condition is, right? It's going to be about picking someone off. It's going to be about maintaining vision and fighting around these wards that you have established. So Damwon't is just going to kind of shove out waves and then wait until they have information on where the G2 members are, and then go with what is an equal or greater number than what G2 can have in that spot. And that is what we have seen from them over this last 5-6 minutes, playing around mid lane and trying to do it incredibly carefully, knowing that as the clock gets later and later into the game, they're in a better spot.
All right, Nuclear now is in peak condition. He's primed. He's ready. He's ready to run a marathon.
Peak performance looks like.
Yeah, he's ready to run an Olympic competition, whatever it is, he's ready. He's got all the tools in his kit. He's been building up to this moment for 25 minutes, and now he's primed and poised. So if we're going to see any action, if we're going to see any kind of proactivity from Damwon't, this is going to be the time in the game.
But what if he waited for 6 items? Would he be more ready?
I feel like you baited us, Vedius. I feel like they're fine. Just chilling.
Yeah, but like,
but this is the time.
You should try and fight on your spikes, because the longer you wait, then Orianna's only going to get stronger. No one wants to fight a 6-item Orianna, especially when she has a Zhonya's. If I'm Nuclear right now, I'm like, nice mage, bro, because you know how much stronger you are with these 3 items. So, like, if I'm Damwon't, I'm thinking, okay, we're super strong right now. We have a Kennen, level 15. He's got 3 items. He's ready. The Rise just finished the Void Staff, so let's go down one. Let's pick a fight.
And it's important for G2 in this series. We'll hold that thought. Engage potentially going to come in. Realm Warp coming into the mid lane. A lot of members going in. BeryL now is going to kick the fight off. Wunder has to be ready. Jankos off to the side trying to stop Nuguri from getting into the midst of the fight. It's going to be a big cannon. All the Nuguri can get in, but he's setting his sights on the jungler. It might not be enough. Perkz locked up. Goes gold, buys a bit of time. Has the shockwave. Can use it on himself, but it will not be enough. Damwon't Gaming, though, slowly getting chipped away. Jankos trying to force the retreat. Acceleration gate coming out. The Ward going to make sure that he can get to safety. The flash forward from Cannon. He's going to get the kick. Mikyx goes in, tries to buy time. Knows that his time is over. Nuclear with a massive Acathian rain to find the kill.
Wunder trying to make the hero play there to take down the Kayle to prevent the Baron, but Damwon't forcing the fight here. G2 just group up as 5 and say, well, we got to try something. They look to push on this mid lane turret. Damwon't wipes them off the map, and they will claim Baron.
We talked about it. They were ready to run the marathon. They had everything they needed to fight, and they found it. G2 gave them the opportunity into the mid lane, and they do not waste it. The Realm Warp used from the Rise to bring everyone into the mid lane. At this point, G2 are thinking, ooh, can we punish them? Can we catch them? No, they don't want to overcommit. Immediate flash in from BeryL. Yes, he gets knocked up, and Jankos does what he can to keep Nuguri out of the fight, but the Renekton is just getting melted down by ShowMaker and Nuclear. Perkz is left isolated, and he doesn't even get a chance to use his shockwave. If he had landed that, maybe G2 can swing the fight in their favor, but after he's down, Damwon't have nothing that they have to be afraid of.
Yeah, and Wunder here just really wanted to take down Nuclear, but it was a good flash on the To The Skies there from the Jayce. If you kill off that Kayle, maybe you can get out and maybe you can prevent them from getting the Baron, but Damwon't now in full control, send the Rise out to the side lane. It looks like they want to go for more of a 1-4, focus on 2 lanes right now, try to push in, clear out some of these tier 2s, and really extend the gold lead to unstoppable levels.
G2 just have to do what they can to hold on. Their only reliable source of wave clear. Hold that thought. They might just be going in on the cannon. That's the TP now coming in. A good kick to disengage. Caps has already used the ultimate. Damwon't can just back off, and now G2 suddenly look a lot less threatening. Nuguri has the ultimate up and available, trying to catch G2 if they walk back down the mid lane. He will use that Baron-empowered recall to back off. He does have the TP up and available. He is now trying to flank. G2 walk back to the river, but they're going to be walking to the waiting hands of Nuguri. This is going to be disaster. Perkz, what can he get done with the shockwave? But it might not be enough. He goes up. He tries to buy a bit more time. He'll deny the Leona access, but now he's set in the sights of Nuclear, and that should be it. Wunder on the backside trying to turn it, but Nuclear finds himself on his lonesome, but no! He leaps into the backline, but it is not enough! And G2 turn it on Damwon't. Nuguri, though. Maybe he can make the hero play. Maybe he can turn this, but Wunder's chasing him down. That's going to be at the cannon. No ulti left to smack away. Nuguri will find the retreat. G2 will find the fight, but the 4-second recall will be enough. The cannon will make it out to safety.
Huge win there for G2, staying alive in this game. It's the Baron buff. It's the 4 dragons on the side of Damwon't, as well as a huge gold lead. It's Caps without even having an ultimate, and they somehow make this miracle happen. Wunder with a good disengage on the immediate engage there from the Lee Sin in this Axe Gaming. What's your move replay here as Nuguri flying in on top, but a great shockwave catches 3 from Perkz. And I think this is so intelligent for Perkz. Trackly flashes back to his teammates instead of just looking for the easy retreat over the wall, gets back to the rest of his squad. So when we see Nuclear flying in there with that ultimate, they can collapse and take him down.
Yeah, I think the positioning from Perkz in that fight is really what allowed G2 to come out on top, because not only did he avoid Nuguri's ultimate, but he was then able to land such a big shockwave that it pretty much ripped Damwon't in half. And we're now seeing how this comp from G2 is supposed to work. If Perkz can land his abilities, if he's able to get the damage off, then G2 have a chance of turning this game back in their favor. But it requires fantastic execution, and with the flash now unavailable for Perkz once again, you imagine that that was just a bad fight from Damwon't, and they're going to be waiting for the next Baron buff to spawn. They can continue to keep scaling up. You can see now that Nuclear has a GA completed. Damwon't is incredibly strong,
but just barely edging out on the positive side of that Baron power play, plus 45 gold.
45, we'll take it.
Still slightly positive. 2 seconds
It's
sooner
a win.
would have been a minor negative, but as you said, execution And this is something that we know G2 for domestically. They've been a team not to mis-execute when they are playing well, when they're playing at their top level. However, it does not get easier. Wunder, of course, though, has to be respected more in the fights to come. Perkz bought the space. Wunder dealt the damage. It was a good fight for G2, but now they're still in the process of clawing their way back into the game. It is still a massive deficit. It is still 5 Drakes on the side of Damwon't Gaming.
And I think with that teamfight win, we may see Damwon't kind of, the turtle go back into its shell, right? You know, wait for these next major objectives. You have 5 dragons. Why not wait to try to cash that in on an Elder? Why not wait for the Baron? I think that is what we are going to see here, because good scaling or not, if you have a poor engage against a team of this caliber like G2, they can punish you. They can take you down. And Damwon't is going to have to be really, really careful that they're checking all the boxes, that they're making sure it is the perfect fight to engage on, because if you lose a fight this late in the game, it can be massively punishing.
I will also say that Wunder, a player that we haven't really talked about much this game, is still very strong. He's where all of the gold sits on right now for G2, and if he's able to find a very similar 1v1 like he did against the Lee Sin, we saw how quickly he just melted through that target. And so in these long, drawn-out fights, he's not a character that you can afford to underestimate, because he's still very powerful, still very strong. But as you were saying, Xayah, Damwon's setting up around the Baron. They don't need to overforce right now. They're just going to get their vision down, go back to base, reset, restock on all the wards, and then they'll come back out onto the map. And as G2 try to clear, they have to invest their vision to clear out all of the newly fresh wards that Damwon't will have available to them. So this area is going to be very dark for G2 to try and approach.
Will be tough for them, but there is some good news on the side of G2. You can see the death cap recall just came through for Perkz.
That's a big buy.
That is very, very big. Caps now, 3 completed items. Wunder, you mentioned it on him. He's essentially full build here. Yes, he can still upgrade that last Whisper, but these guys are at very strong points in the game also. I think it's much more difficult for them to execute the comp, and I think that, you know, if Damwon't plays it out properly, they should win. But that being said, you misstep at all, there's enough damage on the side of G2 now that you can just instantly die. And if one member gets wiped off the map, the fight can get turned on its head.
And we saw 1 or 2 small mistakes from Damwon't in the early game, made up for by a single mid-game team fight in that mid lane. But this is it. All of that will not matter if they can pull off a single good fight, or if a fight turns against them as G2. They know that the Baron is happening. They're going to lay down a bit of vision. They know this one is getting closed out. Jankos wants to find a way into the pit. 4K, but Nuguri may have found the flank. G2 moving further and further into enemy territory. Should be easy for the Kennen to find the fight. They don't see Nuguri in the bush. It is all about what he can get done. Mikyx trying to flank on this one, but the Kennen now leaping into the backside of G2, and that is massive! The Shockwave, though, trying to turn it back. The shutdown now coming out. The Kennen is dead. Perkz is still alive. Caps is still alive. Mikyx still alive. They're fighting. They're holding on for dear life. But Nuclear and ShowMaker are untouched, and this will not be enough. Damwon't Gaming are cleaning this one up. Perkz does massive damage, but ShowMaker stepping forward. This is the rise. Perkz buys a bit of time, but it will not be the difference maker. He cannot, or can he, make it out to safety. Damwon't win the fight.
And it's Damwon't who has the better execution. The damage coming out from Nuguri was just so monumental, because he caught pretty much every member of G2 outside of the Alistar. This meant that with him soaking up all the damage, ShowMaker and Nuclear were left untouched, and they could then just run the rest of G2 down.
And I love how quickly Damwon't is able to make these calls in the fight. It's Canyon turning to kick away the Alistar, while the rest of the members immediately hard engage on the other members on G2. I think they're making these calls so quickly and so intelligently, so we can watch this one more time. As soon as Mikyx shows, Canyon goes straight to him, kicks him out, the rest of the team goes in. There was a brief glimmer of hope here for G2, though, when they kill off Nuguri before he can get into that zone, is where you're saying, okay, maybe something can happen. But track the carries from Damwon't. Nuclear and ShowMaker were untouched.
ShowMaker just straight up 1v1 obliterates Caps. He turns him into boots almost immediately. Meanwhile, Nuclear on the backside is just left untouched. No one is threatening him. And if no one is getting onto these carries from Damwon't, and no one has the risk of shutting them down, then you know Damwon't is going to come out ahead on these fights every time. And this is what we kept talking about. It's just a waiting game for Damwon't, because you know that every time you go for these fights, as long as you don't do anything too egregious, you should be able to come out on top.
Taylor Drake 50 seconds away, already a 2.6k Baron power play, a 9k gold lead, scratch that, 8.5. Massive, massive for the side of Damwon't. G2 need a miracle to come back in this one. They're stacking the brush. They're not going to find the engage there as Nuguri pushes down the mid lane. They can threaten the Elder Drake, but they can also push mid. They're putting Damwon't in the exact same situation that G2 put them in game 1.
Yeah, they could just make G2 respond to them. Just run straight down mid lane, go for the inhibitor. G2, is trying to lay in wait, is trying to get some sort of a pick, but Damwon't has no reason to actually respond. Now that they've pushed down mid lane, G2 has to show there. They can move into this Elder Dragon area and start clearing out some wards and start establishing some area of control.
I think G2's best bet is to try and rush it down. You'll see that Nuguri is basing right now. He's going to have his TP available, and he has this ward, this very crucial ward just underneath that he can look to TP flank onto. If he can come in from behind, then that is going to be what Damwon't used to force the fight.
Big buy from Canyon, though. He has the GA. Nuclear has the GA active. The IE completed here, too. So they are looking very, very strong. Who do you really target? Stopwatch on the mid laner. Zhonya's on the top laner. Double GA on the other two important members.
You just land a 5-man shockwave, Xayah. Easy. That's just what you do.
And Caps has been spotted. He doesn't know it yet. Was spotted out by the sweeper there.
Did.
The ulti now coming in. They know that this single pick can turn the fight for them. Caps can't really do anything else. Nuclear now on a rampage. Damwon't walking right into the Elder Dragon pit.
And there's very little that G2 can do about this. They're just going to concede it. They're going to try and clear out some of the minion waves, making it harder for Damwon't to end this game. But they have a wave stacked up. But they also have the Rise ultimate to bring minions to the mid lane if they want to. Either way, is Damwon't in control. G2 left with very little left.
G2 running out of time for that miracle. Damwon't set up to close with confidence. The super buff of Elder, 5-stack Elder nonetheless. Should be an easy fight for them to win. Mikyx channeling the Hex Flash. Will not be able to get anything done, and it looks like they are going to have to give up at least this inhibitor. Mid lane should fall as well. Wunder desperately trying to poke, trying to get something done. Perkz, that shockwave will be everything in the fight to come. But for now, it is just G2 backing off, giving up both those objectives.
G2 have no option but to give up those two inhibitors. If you fight at that point, you are just going to lose. If they can stave off the triple inhib, there is some brief glimmer of hope, but it's going to take a series of miracles at this point.
And realistically, I mean, at this point, you're looking at Orianna Shockwave versus AP Cannon Ult, and the sustained damage of a Jayce against the sustained damage of a Kayle in a fight. And on top of that, you have to count in the fact that there's a Renekton versus a hilariously fed Rise. And it just might not be possible for G2.
I mean, Nuclear's at a point where he has too much money that he knows what to do with. He's just like, he's spending it on pots every opportunity he gets. He could probably just sell an item and rebuy something if he wants to. He is just so rich. Meanwhile, Perkz is just barely like working on his 4th item, and like that difference is largely what's going to determine this game for Damwon't. The bright side for us is it means we get more games between these two teams, which I'm definitely excited for, because it's pretty much impossible for G2 to be able to turn this game around.
Holding on, though. Buying time. Even if they can't find the win, can figure out what went wrong, talk about it, plan for the next game, and still hold out hope for that miracle. But Damwon't, 5 buffs strong, should be able to walk in, should be able to break this final inhibitor. We've got Nuguri pushing in the mid lane, else G2 can collapse on a single member. They're not going to get anything done, and even if they do, they might lose the inhibitor just to do so. Yeah,
Damwon't just need to wait for supers to come in these 2 waves. As soon as people respond on those sides, they can look to either dive or force elsewhere.
Are they going to wait for a 3rd Baron?
I mean, Elder, maybe, it's with it expiring, maybe they want to wait for another Baron, another Elder, but
I'm surprised by how
extreme.
safe Damwon't are treating this game. Admittedly, they have such a large gold lead that, sure, playing safe is not really going to hurt them that much, but I just think that like they're so strong, they shouldn't have to wait this long.
Nuguri potentially caught out. The CC is there. The follow-up is there. The rest of the team now trying to collapse. ShowMaker going to try to find his way in, but that's going to be it. That's a big pick for G2. They bought themselves more time. Massive death timer for Nuguri.
Yeah, the Baron's going to be up, and there'll still be about 30 seconds, 20 seconds maybe, where Nuguri is dead. So pretty big mistake. And while I somewhat have no problem with Damwon't waiting till 6 items, they've been 6 items for a while. So they're actually getting nothing else on the Rise, nothing else on the Kayle. So I think it's just straight wrong to be playing too passively at this point, where there's so much room to grow for Caps, so much room to grow for Perkz. If you let these guys hang around, build up their items, they're going to find opportunities just like that.
So far, the story of the game for Damwon't has been punishing the mistakes of G2, but now it is on them to take the initiative to end the game themselves.
Another Baron is alive.
You
G2 have
this.
5 members. Perkz is going to clear out top wave, and then he can TP in if he wants to, but they're not going to take the gamble.
I thought that was going to be the G2 play for
Yeah,
sure.
same.
With a 5v4, G2 is the kind of team that plays to win, that will always take their shot. I thought that was going to be the shot that they would take this game, because with Nuguri coming back up, again, you are in this really disadvantageous position. There's many super minions stacked up in that
Now
bottom
he's
wave.
alive. He has TP as well.
Ulti should be off cooldown shortly. G2 has to be careful about walking into the funnel. Perkz is here. He's
Caps
strong.
has no TP. They're not even going to challenge.
Wow, very surprising. I thought that considering the situation that G2 was in, they would just take that gamble and force the fight in the very small window that they had. But maybe they believe that they can continue to stall out. We can see that the inhibitors spawn, or respawn rather, in about another minute's time. So maybe G2 are just hoping to delay the game as long as they can.
It is really interesting. That is not a play I would have pegged G2 to make. I feel like their bet now is just saying, no, we can actually compete. We just need to catch up in items, right? That is kind of what they're doing here. But that may have been their highest percentage play to actually take this game, right? If you rush that 5v4, if you can actually get some kills on Damwon't, take the Baron, hey, maybe you have a shot. But Caps, he's building up. He's only one item off full build. Perkz has completed another item here too. So if you can execute perfectly, maybe they can make something happen.
Still a lot of maybes. And G2's longest game up until this point was a little bit more than 34 minutes. Now they're already at 41, almost 42. Very long, very arduous process for Damwon't Gaming. Need to stop playing not to lose and need to play to win. Play to end this game on the back of this Baron buff.
The second Elder, though, is up in 50. And second Elder is really the GG buff, where it lasts so long, it does even more damage than that first one. So,
But the last Elder should have been the GG buff, and this is the thing that's making me wonder,
this is
right?
the really GG buff. Like, the last one was lowercase GG. This is like
I mean, all right,
uppercase with some exclamation points.
I mean, for sure, but I agree with you, Xayah. At what point will Damwon't really pull the trigger? Because
Maybe
they
right
should be
now.
able to.
One inhibitor's going to respawn. Mikyx fishing for the
Ooh,
engagement,
good
will not
flash.
find it. Good play from ShowMaker. Will be missing his flash now. You can see the ball attached to Mikyx, but he is so squishy at this stage of the game. Only with his ultimate does he have any real resistances. Canyon getting chipped away at. And the tower stands for now. Perkz still a solid source of wave clear, even in the face of these Baron buff minions. 13 seconds
It's
left
Elder.
on the Elder Drake.
They're going to play for Elder, I really think, but it's
Oh,
TP
TP
flank coming
flank.
in.
Canyon, if they take out the jungler, this could be the difference. Trying to find the lockup, waiting for Canyon to go over the wall, but now the rest of Damwon't Gaming, this is their permission to enter the base. They can enter, do so fearlessly. Canyon still alive. G2 fish for the play, but they will not find it. That's going to be an inhibitor going down. Mid and bot are still up. Keep your eyes on that Orianna ball. Where's it going to go? Can you find the multi-man shockwave? For now, Damwon't Gaming happy with a single inhibitor. It's on the top side, which means they will have pressure there, and it should set up for a relatively easy, all things considered, Elder Dragon.
Huh. Well, only one inhib goes down. There's still a minute left on the Baron, and of course, Damwon't, they will still have control,
Here we
but
go.
it's one of those situations where they're not getting any stronger.
They will get a fight here, though. G2 must contest for this, and G2 looks like they want a 5-man blast go. They're just going to try to rush this, but they're going to be in the pit, and Damwon't will
It's not
spot
where you
them.
want to be. This is the dream of every AP Kennen. Stack up for him. Here comes Nuguri, but he knows
They're
the
gonna
Alex
rush
can
it
punch him
down.
out. 3K dropping. Mikyx has cleared him out of the pit. They have managed to take it, but now can they take the fight? Barrels into the back line, but will it be enough? Eyes on Caps, eyes on the shockwave. He has used the nuclear right to the backside, and the Kaisa is too strong. She goes over the wall. It's free auto attacks. It's a clean sweep for the side of Damwon't Gaming. The TPs come in, and that's the white flag for G2. Damwon't will take game 2.
The absolute massacre in the Elder Drake pit. You could see what G2 tried to do. It was the last-ditch effort, and unfortunately for them, it was not enough. Damwon't gonna equalize the series.
Damwon't Gaming pushing through, small mistakes punished, and in the end, the game will be theirs.
I think what we saw here, though, was that G2 cannot consistently find these early game leads. Putting the Renekton into the mid lane didn't pay off as much as they wanted, but I actually think, like, even further back, where things really started to crumble was in the bot lane 2 versus 2. When both the Orianna and the Alistar died and all the teleports went to bot lane, a lot of the early pressure and playmaking, I feel, became very limited for G2, which meant that Damwon't could keep stalling up, Nuclear kept getting kills, and he was ultimately the big carry at the end of the game. It was just surprising that Damwon't weren't willing to pull the trigger as often as they could have.
That 2v2 double kill felt like the pivotal moment of the game for me, because you have to remember, in the earlier minutes, we saw Nuguri fail to flash the cocoon, get first blooded in the top lane. We saw Canyon get killed 1v1 on a poor invade. We saw mid lane getting bullied in those earlier levels, with some jungle attention. Things felt like they were really good for G2 in those early minutes, but bot lane collapsed under the pressure of this 2v2, and Damwon't was able to restabilize in the game and ride that into the late game.
And now as the series is tied up, you have to be concerned for the G2 bot lane. It was supposed to be a point of strength, but to give us their thoughts on how Damwon't tied the series, let's head back to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you, Jankos. My thoughts are we are in for one hell of a series as Damwon't are able to equalize it at 1-1.
Yeah, that was exciting. This is 100% the best series we've seen so far in quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Because both teams, even though they're clear kind of like back and forth situations, you're seeing them actively thinking as they go on.
And every other series was nearly a sweep, right? It was like, all right, maybe reverse sweep. No, not a reverse sweep. So finally we have that competitive series. And the thing to me is how these teams, both of them now, have had relatively early game advantages, but then the opponent has made them work for it.
Right.
So both teams are very aware of what each other's win conditions have been and have done a lot of things to stop that from happening, which is just really fun to watch.
And in this game, too, we got to see Damwon's response to a lot of that flexibility that we've talked about with G2 in their drafting.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, both teams, again, in the draft, ended up doing a lot of expected things or like standard things in a sense, other than maybe Orianna botlane in this case here. Because when we sit here and we watch the draft, we can kind of go, okay, so now they will take Renekton and then they can flex it into 2 lanes, so Damwon't have to respond to that, and then they pick the Ryze on their side where you can do the exact same and you can follow the Renekton. So we ended up getting like a lot of really cool trades happening. I like how G2 on blue side are finding ways to not get counterpicked in solos, because they actually ended up with Jayce into Cannon, which was supposed to be the winning matchup for them in this one here, but obviously due to the TP shenanigans bot lane and so on, it didn't exactly happen.
Yeah, what I liked a lot about this was that coming into this game, you know, denied the Xayah pick, and of course even mentioning the fact that they were on blue side in this situation, they still allowed them to have priority through bot lane, or at least some consistent push with the Orianna on the bot side of the map whenever they had the opportunity to play through it.
Yeah, and I like that Damwon't adjusted towards the Kennen because they stopped the top lane from being pure playthrough. And the big thing is what the caster's desk hit on right at the end is Perkz and Mikyx actually getting double killed. Perkz not having damage until the game was already 8,000 gold against them. And what so many of us saw as a strength for G2 the whole year, the ability to play mages in the bottom lane. I have liked Perkz way more on AD carries. He's been way more consistent of a player. He's actually hitting faster power spikes. It seems like a better strategy for G2 to me.
I mean, I think it's important to highlight that Orianna, unlike some of the other mages, are not picked to like hard stomp this bot lane. You know, if you pick a Syndra bot with a CC support, you can create a lot of kills. Orianna doesn't have the same damage. He fell behind. We get some of the big team fights happening now where we have to notice G2 actually getting caught out in this one, but then they still try and come in and like flank with Wunder and caps with TPs, but they just don't have a lot of damage at this point in the game to actually get through all these members. Perkz are trying, but it's barely doing anything.
And there were a few little things that happened during this game where G2 actually did have the potential to snowball through top or mid, but Damwon't was able to stop it. And then you got to see to these big plays, especially watch Canyon's kick and Nuguri getting the flank.
Yeah, that was beautiful. At least the kill was still being able to nail him, but the fact that he was able to get that tagged onto the Leona ultimate so they couldn't get out of it. Yeah. Great layering of CC.
And you can see the look from G2 there, the response from Damwon't, both teams firing on all cylinders.
And that's just what I love about this because, this is actually, this is a really sick play. So Caps ends up jumping over the wall here, but because they're about to set up for Drake and Damwon't knows they're a bit late, they're actually pinging, you can see on the minimap with the arrow saying there could be someone sitting here. We don't know who, but someone could sit here and use the sweeper to find Caps. You didn't see the replay, but they will see the little shadow around Caps right there to actually know, okay, we can go for a kill.
That's just brilliant game sense on one of the biggest stages that this world has to offer for League of Legends.
Yeah, I mean, at least they were able to get a good understanding of what he was trying to do, getting vision of him as he was walking through the tri-bush bot side, but still, that changes the direction, honestly, speeds up the game, being able to nail down the Elder Dragon, and then they can finally get the push across the top side. My only concern here, and we've seen it in both games from both of these teams, is they're really concerned about throwing leads away. Yeah. Like in game one.
You think both teams are concerned about throwing the leads?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So in game one, what we saw from G2 is that when they had the position to go for Baron, ultimately a lot of the times they pulled back or looked for fights. Because to be honest, once again, Damwon't is pushing and forcing them into smite battles. But you have a Rakan in game one, you can stop that, you can go for those. It's not even a 50-50, it's a 70-30, it's an 80-20. There is a chance, but you have the great opportunity. In this game, Damwon't, when they had Elder Dragon,
It's suspect
everything.
when you've got 3 Barons, multiple Elder Dragons, and you still haven't ended the game.
Renekton was dead. You can literally just, especially when they took down bottom double inhib, they can just go for the fight, but once again, didn't want to throw lead.
I think what's really, really intriguing about this is that going into Game 3, Damwon't has elected to stay on red side. And so these teams are just going to keep throwing massive punches at each other.
And I love the fact that we have great decisions being made by the teams, but also we have insane players pulling off mechanically great plays in these fights. So that's why you get a super close series, no matter who's actually winning early.
It's cool to see that flexibility from G2, but we heard Jat say it. He likes Perkz more on the AD carry. So we'll have to see if G2
You're going to get Zoe and you're going to like
and
it.
jumps back to one of those ADCs in
There
Game
we
3.
go.
You are going to get a look here at the sights and sounds, though, over in the Palacio Vistalegre in beautiful Madrid, where, as you can see through the lens of the Oppo Reno 2, the fans have been absolutely delivering for the competitors this weekend. Make sure you stick around, though, because after the break, it's Damwon't versus G2 Esports.
Nuguri level 3 of his own. Trying to park the stun. It still will connect. Nuguri now going to be in trouble. They're going to try to run him down into the tower, and that's going to be it. He can turn this one with a shockwave, but Mikyx getting slowly but surely getting chunked down. The Alstral not available. Jankos now in trouble. They're so incredibly squishy, but it's cast into the back line and misses the entire team. Nuguri's ult is right back up. But now he's set in the sights of Nuclear, and that should be it. Wunder on the backside trying to turn it, but Nuclear finds himself on his lonesome, but no! He leaps into the back line, but it is not enough! The Kennen now leaping into the backside of G2, and that is massive! The Shockwave, though, trying to turn it back. The shutdown now coming out. The Kennen is dead. Perkz is still alive. Caps is still alive. Mikyx still alive. They're fighting. They're holding on for dear life. They have managed to take it, but now can they take the fight? BeryL's into the back line, but will it be enough? Eyes on Caps. Eyes on the Shockwave. He has used the Nuclear right to the backside, and the Kaisa is too strong. She goes into the wall. It's free auto attacks. It's a clean sweep. Damwon't Gaming pushing through, small mistakes punished, and in the end, the game will be theirs.
Welcome to Assist of the Week, presented by State Farm. After falling early to SKT, Fnatic defended 3 consecutive tower dives before deciding to strike mid. After picking off effort, Nemesis dropped multiple event horizons, allowing Fnatic to start dropping SKT one by one. Fnatic would win the fight and take SKT's Nexus, allowing them to move on to the 2019 Worlds Knockout stage.
The new Oppo Reno 2 quad camera. Zoom into imagination.